We are a generation who is in truth supposed to be sowing in to a generation that will take over. Okay? Well, if you guys are wondering what that sound is, believe it or not, this alarm has not been going off. It didn't go off once, not once. It's also isolated somewhat, but it didn't go off once. And all of a sudden, beeps, right? It's beeping, which means the electrical potential where I'm at right now has gone up a lot. It's gone up a lot. Right now, it's stable. It does track also that this device tracks the resonance, the overwhelming resonance around me, which is 2.408 gigahertz. Now, the human body is 2.4 gigahertz, give or take some gigahertz. A lot of people don't know that. Your body is tuned to the same reactive frequencies that Wi-Fi is. How many people are aware of that? You may not be aware of that. It is the reason they selected 2.4 gigahertz in the first place. Are you guys aware of that? It's supposed to be a harmless band, but they found out some different things. They didn't want to go too low because that affects the human mind. They didn't want to go too high because that affects your organs. So what they did was they locked it in to the body's what's called an absolute frequency of the body, or resonance of the body. Well, it's more like a frequency of the body. It's an operational frequency of your body. And this was, further developed in Wi-Fi, and it was decided that they would go ahead and use that spectrum. Within that band, though, they're supposed to stay away from a few frequencies, so there are gaps in that spectrum that they utilize for communications, and there must be, because if not, all of us would go nuts. And so they don't want that to happen. But since the usage of Wi-Fi, people have been, the children are born different. We think differently. Concepts, well, let me put it this way. The way we think has been altered. And some people find it very difficult, if not impossible, to capture very simple concepts. Things that would have been simple about, 30 years ago. Not so simple today. There's a reason for that, too. But we'll reserve that for another knowledge base, knowledge drop talk, I should say. All right. Another subject. I want to inform you guys about that are in Israel have joined Central Command's intelligence groups. Right? We went over that. To even today, further talks are going on. Things have happened militarily. And what they're doing is post-operational. Right? This means after the operation took place, they are solidifying certain sides of this new alliance. And I'm telling you, it's a new alliance. Now, opposition has already formed regarding this new alliance, but there's some details you might want to know. And it's about the power structure of the Middle East and how it has changed. Now, it's no secret that the West is we are the, let's just say, law enforcement of the world. You guys are aware of that, right? So we manage just about everything in the world. We do. The U.S. does. That's our place. We manage it. We govern quite a few things. We administer quite a few things. That's what we do. In the Middle East, though, there is massive opposition to what is taking place, and which has opened up two specific targets of aggression, both aggression planning, and I would say in the next couple days, there is a real potential of something bad happening in the next couple days regarding Germany, specifically near Poland, Germany, northern France, of course the UK, southern Norway would be a central hold. And that is in fact part of the, let's just say the early warning net coverage of Russia. Now you guys tactically, Russia, now listen to me, Russia, nobody else, we're just talking about Russia. Russia has a massive early warning system. I mean, massive. In fact, it stretches all the way down to Australia. Just so you know, it's an early warning system. That's in the southern hemisphere. If we were to go east from Russia, it covers all the way to Newfoundland. So you understand that. And if we were to go the opposite direction, you're looking at coverage all the way to western Japan. That's Russia. That's nobody else but Russia. So you're looking at, and the reason why they keep it at western Japan is because they have 3 split systems, early warning systems there. One covers the entirety of the northern hemisphere, the North Pole. Up above, you're looking at probably above, I believe it is, above the 20-degree mark. So that's a lot of coverage. That means Russia. And what they can't cover by the air, right? Of course, they are covering by the sea. There are Russian ships in the South Pacific. Game of hide and seek is taking place right now in the South Pacific. We have the North Atlantic. We have shadows, multiple shadows that are being, there are tracks being picked up in the Indian Ocean, of course. That should be no secret. But you're looking at a large, massive area of coverage that Russia has, because all this time they have been strategically positioning themselves. And of course, the trouble began, those coordinates I gave you guys. Hopefully you're paying attention to those coordinates, because there's something being set up there right now. And I gave you those coordinates. That was back in, was that 2014? 13 or 14? Somewhere around there. So they're setting up things there right now. Now, all these tactical movements, there's some details about these tactical movements you must know. There are certain pieces of equipment that even though you have them developed and they're ready to go, you do not deploy. You don't deploy them because they are hazardous. You guys understand? And once you move them, right, they are active and they will not deactivate, so to speak. They have to be put into use because they're linked into so many different types of offensive equipment. Okay? Offensive. So these guys being positioned all over the place have actually moved some of their mobile offensive bases, I guess you could say, because they incorporate quite a few pieces of technology. They have been moved all throughout the northern hemisphere. The U.S. likewise is paying attention to all these movements, and we've been countering quite a few things which would explain the drawdown of troops from the Middle East. Listen, of course they're going to give the reasons for this drawdown, but let me share this with you. If I were in charge of the U.S., and there was a battle plan, right, and casualties would mount in the Middle East, I most certainly would not keep America's children over there in the Middle East, knowing that it would probably double. They would become a quick target. You see, if war breaks out in the Middle East, it's not going to be like Saddam Hussein. It's not going to be that situation in 1990, 1991 of Operation Desert Storm. That's not what it's going to be. It's not going to be like the second time that the U.S. went into Iraq. It's not going to be any further, any of those operations. It's going to be the Middle East versus any Western influences out there. They're going to blame that breakdown on us. And so prematurely, right, you have to soften the area before you go in there. We face a lot of, part of this war is a cyber war, right? And You guys remember a long time ago I said that in the history books, if we have any, they're going to say World War III began before 2016 in the realm of cyber commands, cyber attacks. That's how it began, right? So, having said that, we have seen an escalation in the usage of cyber techniques, and counter cyber techniques have been used likewise against most countries right now are involved in this, heavily involved, to the point where their infrastructure has to be unplugged from local nets so that nobody can hack them. Security has been doubled just about in every single place where somebody could hack, and there are embedded systems within systems that they have been combing through for the last year, trying desperately to find every single trigger they can find. All the updates you guys have been experiencing on Windows, if any of you know about Windows, you can look at the modules and see within the framework of Windows and with Mac what they have been replacing, what they've been, what has grown in size and doubled. Security is a big part of these updates, right? Because your outside network has changed. How your computer communicates with the internet is totally different than what it was 4 years ago. So it's not the same. 5G is absolutely critical, but there's a difference with 5G. It has a biolock inside of it, which means it's already adapted to biological identification, a brand new packet system, right? That's a little higher than your IPv6 standard protocol series. So there's some things put in place. They're already ready. They're out there. They're in position. There's an entire change that has taken place. And most people, they have no idea it's taken place. It will be enacted at any major infiltration of the U.S. or any other allied nation is going to be enacted. And when it is, your devices are going to be turned on in a very specific way. You don't have control nor authorization over this. If you're utilizing a phone, you've agreed to let them do this. If you're utilizing a laptop or a computer or any device that connects to the internet, you have already agreed to allow them to do this. And then you're going to have to make a phone call, or you're going to have to do something for your own personal authentication, or your device is going to be no good. In other words, you're not going to get back on the internet until you conform with some of the new security standards. It's already built into your devices. Everybody rushed out there and got the brand new this and the brand new that. And it's already set up for these things. That's why they're phasing out other phones. That's why some of your cell phone companies are saying, hey, if you want to continue to use us, you've got to update your equipment. How many people had to do that? You thought you were going to hold on to some of your old equipment and utilize it, and they said, no, you're not. That no longer works with our system. You have to trade that in, right? Even in your contract now, your contract is very different than what it used to be. There are some brand new clauses, legal jargon, that would just blow your mind if you would ever take the time and look at the EULA in there. So many things have changed. They're just not announced. And you've already agreed to it. So it's not like anybody can back out of it. And what that means is the day they flip that switch is the day you either conform or you're going to be in the dark from that day forward. And that day is sooner than you think, which is why I want to talk about a date. Somebody says, is the biolock tied to the face and voice? No, it's tied to your blood. It's actually tied to your blood. How it's tied to your blood is by have you guys noticed with the new iPhone? Well, maybe you haven't noticed, and I don't have one here, but there's a line on the iPhone. That line is made of the same material that goes on the back of some of these watches that check for your pulse, that check for your pulse and blood pressure and all this stuff, right? Why? Because they perfected a technique where they do not have to be invasive to get to your blood anymore. They don't need that. Come to find out, all traces of everything in your blood is going to eventually reach a certain part of your skin, which can be detected by way of detecting electrons, right? And certain chemicals. So they have a chip that deplexes. It will decode that and then re-encode it to find out exactly what it is, which is why some people who are they're in certain jobs, they found out they're not swabbing people like they used to do random drug tests, right? They're doing something else. They're rubbing them, let's put it that way. Just a small rub, non-invasive. They get their little sample and boom, within about 30 seconds, they're going to tell you a history of what you've been doing. So that's how that works. Now, again, when all this is flipped over, nobody has a choice but to conform to it or go totally dark. That's just the way it is, which is why I want to talk about a date, because you can't avoid it. Listen, don't. That's just like a long time ago, we had a conversation about secrecy, and people were talking about privacy and this, that, and the other. As a Christian, I raised some points. And then for those who are not Christian, I raised some points. Number one, it does not matter what you say. Because of digital communications, there is another machine that will always see, hear, and interact with you. They're going to see what you say, hear what you say. They're going to capture all your information. You don't have privacy. You're giving it all up to a machine. You just don't want a person hearing what you have to say, right? But you'll give it all to a machine. And what you didn't realize is that a machine can easily parse all of your conversations you've ever had in less than 2 seconds. A machine knows everything about you. The human does not. But it's come to the point where the machine can do things with the information that a human could not. The machine is the one adjusting. Advertising campaigns, this, that, and the other. Every time somebody goes to Amazon and starts utilizing AWS services, right? They're tuning their company, their business, their whatever they're doing into a masterful AI system. The same thing goes for Google. So everything is plugged in to learning machines. And of course, people want to stay up with security and everything else, so they have to learn new techniques by utilizing cloud services, systems like AWS and various other systems out there, which eventually are somewhat quantum crunched, and then your stuff is extracted. They know all about you. You don't have privacy. Your television watches you. We had a discussion about that. If something can show you a picture, right, then it can also watch you. The same light-emitting diodes, I'm going to call them, that are in that screen that can send photons to you can also receive photons back. And they do so intermittently. So they show photons the next few microseconds. They're capturing photons, vice versa, back and forward all the time. So as you're watching TV, your TV is watching you. And they don't even need photons now, because now they do what's called, they have something where they image everything with sound. Sound is the most effective way to image anything. They have it because sound is all over the place. And somebody's always making noise. So there are always sound waves moving, giving you what? Real-time data of the entire surface of the earth and the lower levels. Just so you know, a lot of people don't know this, and they're still hollering about privacy. We don't have privacy. I want my rights. They don't care about what you say. They don't care about what you think you have privacy towards. A machine has your information. They take their cues from a machine. I hope you know that. And that machine has quantified all these data points, second to second, from the entire world. And it gives them advice on what they should do for any given situation. So you're going to find very controlled happenings in the earth, and you have been. They're very strange. When one thing should take place, it does not, but something else happens. Everything within you will tell you that something should have happened. All of a sudden, it changes direction. You'll notice this more and more and more, which causes a person not to even utilize their discernment, because they feel like they can't ever get the right answer. I'm telling you, they're avoiding what it should have been. They are maintaining a visual look, but the world is nothing like you see. It's almost like they have special farms, right? Right? They have special farms that are exposed to the elements. These farms have food on them. I'm not going to eat that food from these farms because that food could be rotten, it could be molded, but they have the appearance of being healthy specimens, right? So they look one way, but indeed they're another way. The world is the exact same way. The world is crusty and molded and is falling apart at the seams, but they're maintaining this illusion that everything is okay. It's not okay. Everything is falling apart. And they just maintain that illusion until they can enact their plans. And people keep buying it. How do I know this? Because, well, let's take the NASA adage. I used to hear people all the time. They would say, well, you can't trust NASA. You can't trust JPL. You can't trust these guys. As soon as something is coming from space, you know what they did? They went to a NASA website. What is that? If you can't trust NASA, why run to them, right? People do this all the time. They do it without thought. They do it without thinking because they're stuck in this, this hurry up and get it paradigm. They don't care what information is qualified, what information is not. And if we're not careful, we too can get sucked into a type delusion like this, right? That's why I'm odd, very odd. I purposely mistime things on purpose for a reason. I confuse machines because I understand machines. I know what they're looking for the most part. I'm sure they have little techniques I know nothing about. But for the parts I do know, I know it's based on timing. I know the information is captured a very special way. Anyway, okay, so we get that out of the way. So you guys understand something tonight, that the world is not how you think it is. It's not so secure as you believe, right? New York is falling apart right now. Do you guys know that? There are protests happening all over the U.S. When was the last time you heard about a protest? You haven't, but they're having them all over the U.S. And I'm not talking about the Jews. That's not what I'm talking about. But if they don't show you pictures, or if nobody reports on the protests, you'll swear up and down they don't exist. And if you're one of the people in those places, what normally happens is when you get on your social media, right, you start looking at what everybody else is talking about, and you forget the point you were going to bring, and now you're sucked into somebody else's paradigm. So what is that? That means the mob rules. We're back to that. We're so easily beset. Unless you're stubborn like I am. I'm sure I'm not the only one out there who does not. I don't go with the grain. I don't. Which is why I believe the Lord blindly. I don't want proof. I don't need proof. I'm telling you right now, I don't want proof. I want to rely upon faith and faith alone. I don't need to see anything. If the Lord said it, I believe it and can confirm it because I run into it as soon as I read it. I have observed it. I just put things into practice. It helps my life out, right? It really does.